The Airbnb host said not to open the basement door, I'm not going to lie. This story really creeps me out because it reminds me of those old school like Ouija boards and seances and stuff like that. Like the idea of inviting spirits into your home or your Airbnb is just something I would never do. But people have different comfort levels, and some people might see this as an exciting experience. But in this case, it was definitely a big mistake. But before we start, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future stories. And be sure to leave a like if you enjoy creepypasta stories. Also, all the sources will be in the description below, so make sure to check them out after you've listened to this terrifying story. But without further ado, let's get right into it. It was 2017, and my wife and I were living in Los Angeles, and we decided we needed a break from the city. So we started looking for a vacation rental house on Airbnb. We found this cute little beach cottage located about 80 miles south of LA in Laguna Beach. The pictures looked nice, and the description made it look even better. It promised ocean views, a fireplace, and a cozy environment. So we booked it for 2 nights and prepared for our weekend getaway. The drive down was beautiful, and by the time we got there, it was around 4 p.m. The host greeted us at the front and gave us a quick tour. There was the living room, kitchen, 1 bathroom, 2 bedrooms, and a deck with an outdoor fireplace overlooking the ocean. Then she showed us the basement, which had a pool table, dartboard, comfy chairs, and a TV. She warned us that the door at the bottom of the stairs should not be opened, it's just for storage, she said. My wife and I exchanged glances. I thought she must have been joking, but her face was serious. Still, we figured it was no big deal. After all, what could possibly be down there? We spent that evening playing pool, watching TV, and enjoying the fireplace. As the night went on, though, we kept hearing strange noises. At first we thought they were just part of the house, maybe some pipes or the wind. But then they started to become more frequent and more intense. Slamming doors, heavy footsteps, whispers, and what sounded like screams. My wife and I looked at each other again, this time in unison. Neither of us wanted to bring up the basement door, but both of us were thinking the same thing. Was it haunted? In the middle of the night, I woke up to what sounded like someone running up and down the stairs. I turned to my wife, who was wide-eyed and sitting straight up in bed. The noise continued for a few minutes and then stopped. Neither of us said anything, but I knew she was thinking it. Should we call the police? Should we get out of there? We stayed in bed for a while until the sun started coming up. Once it was light out, we decided to check out the basement door. Of course, neither of us wanted to go down the stairs, so we just peeked through the window at the bottom. There was nothing there. After that, we decided to forget about it and go get some breakfast. As we were eating, my wife mentioned that maybe we should call the host and ask about the noise we heard. I agreed, so she called the host, who was extremely apologetic. She said she didn't mention the basement door to most of her guests, but she warned us to stay away from it. She also apologized for the noise, saying that it was probably just some wild animals in the walls. Satisfied with her explanation, we hung up and headed back to the cottage. We spent the day playing pool, drinking, watching movies, and hanging out on the deck. The weather was great and we couldn't have asked for a better day. At night, however, the noises came back. They weren't as bad as the night before, but they were still there. Now that we knew what to expect, we weren't as scared, but we were still curious. What was making the noise? My wife and I went to sleep early that night, but once again we were awoken by strange noises. This time, though, they were coming from upstairs. We heard footsteps in the hallway outside our bedroom, and then a loud bang followed by heavy footsteps descending the stairs. My wife and I sat in bed frozen in fear until the commotion outside the bedroom door slowly came to a halt. When we finally got up, we noticed that the door to our room was slightly ajar. We cautiously approached the door and slowly opened it. To our horror, we saw that the carpet in the hallway was stained a deep crimson red. But when we stepped out into the hallway, we saw that it wasn't blood. The carpet was stained a deep shade of red, almost black in some spots. I shuddered at the sight. It looked exactly like a crime scene. But the truly disturbing part was that the hallway stretched on forever. It seemed to go on for what felt like miles and miles. We started walking down the hallway, and the further we went, the darker it became. It was like the darkness was trying to swallow us whole. I reached out to my wife, but she was nowhere to be seen. In fact, I couldn't even see my hand in front of my face. Panic started to set in, and I turned around to go back the way we came. But the hallway had vanished. We were in an endless dark tunnel with no way out. Then we heard a voice. It was a raspy, distorted whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Help me," it rasped. "Please help me." We froze and listened intently. The whispering grew louder and more desperate. "Help me," it rasped. "Please help me." Then it stopped, and suddenly we heard a loud crash followed by heavy footsteps running towards us. We turned and ran in the opposite direction, not knowing where we were going or how to escape. Then we saw it. At the end of the tunnel, there was a light. We raced towards it, hoping it would lead us out of the darkness. As we approached, the light grew brighter and brighter until we could see the outline of a door. Relief flooded through me, and I pushed open the door and stepped inside. It was the basement, the door we had been warned not to open. But there was no time to think about that now. I stumbled out onto the basement floor and collapsed on the pool table, gasping for breath. My wife was nowhere to be seen. I called out for her, but there was no answer. I got up and started searching for her, but I couldn't find her anywhere. That's when I saw it. On the wall next to the pool table was a mirror. I walked over and looked into it, and I couldn't believe what I saw. My wife's form was reflected back at me, but it wasn't her. She was translucent, almost ghostly. Her eyes were wide with terror and her mouth was open in a silent scream. Then she vanished. I don't remember much after that. I must have screamed, because soon enough the host was there. She was pale and shaking. "What happened?" she whispered. I pointed at the mirror, but she just shook her head. "Don't look at the mirror," she rasped. "Don't look at the mirror." Then she fainted. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed. The doctor told me that I had been brought in by the host. Apparently she had called 911 after finding me on the floor in the basement. I learned that she had tried to warn me, but the police didn't believe me. According to them, I had wandered into the basement and somehow taken a bad fall. They said that my wife had never been there, and that I was suffering from some sort of mental breakdown. But I know what I saw, I know what I heard, I know what I felt, and I know that my wife is still trapped in that basement with whatever otherworldly entity resides there. As I write this, I am still searching for my wife. The police have given up the search, but I won't stop until I find her. Whoever or whatever took her from me will pay. Thank you for listening to this terrifying tale, and now I want to hear from you. What did you think of the story? Do you believe in ghosts? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future stories. Also, all the sources will be in the description, so make sure to check them out. Until next time, stay safe and keep your doors locked.